But what if we want to check whether something is a float? Like this. Any thoughts on how we could approach that problem? Yes. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. I'll give you a hint. We have to do something with the string before we test whether it's numeric or not. If you do that and it's not a float, it'll be an error. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to convert to a float. But we can do something. We can use a different string method called replace. And what do I want to replace? I want to replace the period with something that won't mess up my is numeric. And I don't want to use a number because I'll have trouble figuring out what number I put in there and why later. But here's something you can do. Let's call this str stripped. That's a long variable name. I don't really like it, but I'm just going to go with it. So I'm going to say str test, and then I'm going to do replace. And I could use self-assignment here, but I don't want to. I want to keep my original string intact because that's probably what I'm going to use later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the period. What should I replace it with? Nothing. I should replace it with nothing, which basically just deletes the period. So I'm getting a new string without the period. Okay, so, and instead of asking, is this numeric, I want to ask, is this one numeric? And if I run this, what you'll see is that it says, yes, it's a number, because I'm printing, let's print that, str stripped. So if I print that number first, you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's a problem. There's one more thing we got to do to make this really clean. Is that a valid float? No. But watch. It says it is because it's taking out all of the periods, which is problematic for us. So what do I want to do here? There's one optional parameter here that maybe you remember, maybe you don't, about replace, and that is I can tell it how many to remove or how many to replace. So if I add 1 as the count here, then I'm saying we're going to take this and we will remove 1 period. If it's there. If there's no period, it's just going to ignore it. But if there is 1 period, it will remove it. If there are 2 periods, it's only going to remove 1, and then we know it's not a number. Okay, so I'm going to have else here, and I'm going to say print, and I'll make that an F string, and I'll say str test is not a number. So this is why you want to keep, this is one of the reasons you would want to keep the original intact and use a different one to test. Okay, because this is not a number. It recognizes that. But you can see here, if I print str stripped right before I say that, notice it does take out 1 decimal or 1 of the periods, but it's not taking out both of them. So it's not fixing something that's not fixable. So that's doing really good. And then if I have a number here that says this with no periods, it's not going to make any big deal of it. It's just going to say it's a number because there's not, if I replace this and I don't have any of these in there, it just returns the whole string. So it's safe that way. So that's a way, using this method of thinking that I can test if something is a decimal or not. Okay? Or at least a valid number that includes a float, is what I should say. If I want to tell whether it's a decimal or not, I would have to use probably the find method to see how many decimals are in there. I mean, there's more steps involved, but I don't really care. Basically, what I'm checking is, can I do math with this thing or not? Can I convert it? So there is that. Now,